Hey folks, here we are. This is David closing the Matrix. Happy Thursday to you. Went in a red there for a second. Okay, happy Thursday to you, and I hope you're having a great day today, or had a great day today, as the case may be, because this is a recording, and I'll be putting it up tonight. So, boy, what a day! It looks like it's not going to be too long till Iran becomes a free entity, and until all those 47 years of misery start to be recompensed with peace and safety and everything else. Interesting term, peace and safety, huh? But so I was looking last night. Actually, I was looking stuff up, and I I wanted to find out more about. I asked a question to a search engine, and it's okay. Here's the deal: if things are supposed to be in these last days as it was in the days of Noah, okay, and Jesus, Yeshua, is referred to as the Son of Man, okay, which would mean what? Ben Adam, Ben Adam, okay, because Adam means man, and so does that mean that? Let's go with this. Okay, here's the deal. By the way, this is opposing the Matrix. If I didn't say it already, and I said that stuff already. Okay, anyway, so we know that Yeshua had to become a man to save people, to save humankind. Well, he redeemed the universe too, the whole creation. Let's put it that way. And so he redeemed the whole universe, and it's just waiting for his return bodily, so that he can vanquish all of his enemies and everything, and then there'll be 1,000 years of peace, a tiny skirmish with Satan again, and then 1,000, or actually a new heaven, new earth, eternal. Okay, so all throughout history, it seems like there's been an effort and a pace to want to eliminate the Jewish people, and that's a reason for that. The enemy doesn't like the Jewish people. First of all, before Yeshua, it tried to destroy the line of Jacob so that Mashiach wouldn't be born, so Yeshua wouldn't be born, or couldn't be born, unless and that would make Yahweh look like a liar. After Yeshua, the reason why the Jews have been singled out, because they have been all for the last 2,000 years, different ways. Is because Yeshua is coming back to save the Jewish people, to redeem them. And so that being the case, if there's no Jewish people left, then Yeshua coming back to redeem Israel I should say, I'm talking Jews and Israel. There's two different things. So if the Judah is wiped out, and for good, and there's nothing there, and he comes back to redeem Israel. Israel is incomplete without Judah, right? So it makes Yahweh look like a liar again. And so anyway, he's gone through extenuous things to preserve the Jewish race, and it's been miraculous in our eyes and in the eyes of the world, except they don't want to admit it. But so anyway. My question was, if Yeshua is the Son of Man, and it means the son of Adam, it must mean that, and he was man and human, all man, all human. Okay, all man, all God. Okay. I just had like a 5-hour nap this morning, folks. So it's a little groggy. Anyway, so he's the Son of Man, and that means that he's all man and all God. Okay. Does that mean that in other words, he's a mix? Okay, a mix, but he's solid at the same time. That's kind of weird, but that's the way Yahweh does things. But does that mean that the other side, since the enemy is supposed to mimic everything that Yeshua did, except in an evil vein, does that mean that the enemy is going to be mixed, like half human and half something else? Okay. Well, I went to a lot of different places. I went to search engines. I went to a couple of different AIs asking a question. And for some reason, the AIs can't understand it. They made things either sound purely spiritual or purely physical. Okay, and we know that the matrix is a physical. It tends to be physical anyway, and the spiritual realm is the real thing. Okay, and so I decided I better go digging here because I want to study this because it would run into the Son of Man thing and the enemy being the son of whatever. Well, he would be the son of. He might be the son of man, but no, wouldn't be right. The son of Satan. Well, that's what he's going to be. Anyway, this is really hard to explain because it's. Well, I don't know. It's a simple subject to think about, but hard one to explain. Anyway, so it's. I was suggesting that maybe the Antichrist is going to be some kind of hybrid. Okay, basically, when we get down to brass tacks, that's what I was trying to figure out, because that's what I believe. But if I can have proof of my beliefs, yes, that's even better. Well, there are a lot of different proofs I have scripturally, but that would just be one more to kind of put the last nail in the coffin, so to speak. So, but I seem to get a hard time from all the AI engines, and I'm starting to think that you used to be able to use like ChatGPT and the others to, and it would give you fairly honest answers, but it would always. But nowadays, it tends to look at things pragmatically. It can't seem to look at a dualistic sort of things. Like reality. There's the matrix and there's the spiritual realm, or Yeshua. He's fully man and fully God. When I was getting answers the other day, it was saying no, he's Ben Adam, he's fully human. And I'm like, yeah, but and it, for some reason has a hard time understanding that there's a dualistic way to a lot of different things, and they can both exist at the same time. So anyway, it kind of pissed me off because it means that we're getting ever closer to the AI engines not giving us, not being able to think in dualistic terms or multilistic terms, and so can it be trusted? And a lot of you are out there going, "Oh, you can't trust them anyway." Well, yeah, it's true. That's true because it's a worldly thing and it's programmed by humans. But for the longest time, I was getting answers back about different subjects that were pretty right on and pretty biblically centered and accurate to the dogma or theology that I've been used to for years. Anyway, so let's see. I started. This one wasn't easy either. It was very, very intense. Very intense Bible study, I guess you could call it. But anyway, one thing yielded like four things. Okay, and this is going into the really bizarre stuff. This is going into stuff that I don't think there's an answer for, or if there is, it hasn't been revealed to us yet. Okay, we can take pot shots at it and try to figure it out. But anyway, so let's see. Okay, so tonight or today or whatever, we're going to talk about the seed conflict. Okay, and there's a colon there. All right, Son of Man, comma, Genesis 6, comma, the beast that was and is not and will be revealed. Okay, that's a really weird one. Okay, it's really, really strange. And when I started looking in different areas, especially when I went to the AI engines, because there was one that had some accurate information in it. Okay, accurate meaning a theology that I know to be true. Okay, so I kind of hung with it, and for certain things, but not for everything. My goodness. Let's see. So 6. Okay. So, like I said, I was curious about the Son of Man thing, and then well, let's just go on here and start. So, anyway, so there's some questions that I pose, and when you pose questions, you got to get answers, right? You'd like to get answers and the truth. So why does Jesus or Yeshua choose to take the title Son of Man so often? All right. Why does Revelation describe the beast as was and is not and shall ascend? Okay, it seems to, I don't know. You were talking time travel, maybe, or I don't know. Okay, so next one. Why does Daniel say they shall mingle themselves with the seeds of men? And if they are not the same as men? And why does Yeshua say the coming will be as the days of Noah? And what are the implications of that, considering everything else that I've mentioned here? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to try to separate what the texts actually explicitly say, what the texts strongly imply, and what's possible but speculative. Okay. All right. So as we're going through this, I'm going to ask myself this and ask you this too. As we read the passages, let's ask ourselves: is the end times deception only political, or is it spiritual, or is it both? Okay. My answer is yes, both. Everything is both. It seems like there's to everything physical, almost everything. There's a spiritual component, and yeah, I don't know. Just as long as we don't over spiritualize or over physicalize, I guess that's a good word I could use. If it doesn't, it's not a word. It is now. Okay. All right. So the foundation. You know what, folks? Hold on a second. I have this. I'm in this converted coupe here, and there must be an entrance in here I can't see, but I think a bird gets in here every once in a while, and you know what birds do. And sometimes on my screen here, I have a little deposit, and it's really getting in my way of reading because it's grossing me out at the same time as I'm trying to present this. So let me see if it tries. I scrape it, and okay, that's a lot better. Okay. All right. So the foundation, the seed conflict starts in Genesis. Okay. Okay, and if this doesn't go into enough, I've got more stuff in my head I can bring up. Okay. So let's see. Genesis 3 introduces two lines of conflict. Two. Well, I cut my finger on a table saw yesterday. Yeah, I'm trying to be careful. Okay. Let's see. So we got Genesis 3:15, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Interesting, huh? Well, that's a messianic prophecy. That's why. So observations on this. The conflict is not merely good versus evil. In abstract terms, it's framed as seed versus seed. Okay, let me stop here. I'm going into the serpent seed thing, okay, a little bit here, and I'm not going to go into it anything weird, okay? Some people go way off on this, and it leads to things like British Israelism, and it leads to things like, you can't imagine, there's so many things that people get out of this that they don't necessarily have to get or have in order to make their point. Okay. Let's see, where we're here. This is, it said, let's see, let me start again. The conflict is not merely good versus evil. In abstract terms, it's framed as seed versus seed. This is why many call it proto-evangelism, aka first gospel promise. Okay, and it was a promise, and we'll see why here. Okay. Is seed always biological, or can it be a spiritual allegiance, or both? I'm going to answer both. Okay. The first seed conflict explosion. Cain versus Abel. Okay. Another first that Cain can claim. Okay, so Genesis 4:8, and Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass that when they were in the field, that Cain rose up and slain Abel. No, excuse me, Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. Pardon me, I got a little agita here going here. And there's a lot of reasons why this might have happened. We know that Yahweh favored Abel more than he did Cain. Cain was kind of like a whitewashed believer. You know, you ever whitewash anything? It's not really a good paint. It's just something to cover it, to protect it. You can still see the wood underneath. So he was. He might have believed in Yahweh, but at the same time, he was out doing his thing, you know. And I think he was trying to maybe please Yahweh, but it wasn't working because what he was doing was for him, not for Yahweh. Okay. So why does this matter? Immediately after Genesis 3:15, the story shows conflict inside humanity. This would have never happened if our progenitors had not eaten of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I don't know. Folks, I understand temptation probably as much as anybody, maybe even more than other people. But if Yahweh says, don't eat that, that'll kill you, why would you eat it? You know, no matter who is sitting there telling you to do it. Nope, I'm sorry. You know, you can promise me that Yahweh's a liar and that I can eat the fruit and everything else, but I'm not going to do it. I am not going to do it. Get out of here. Leave me alone. But things were different, I guess, before the flood, and I don't know. I mean, before they were kicked out of the garden, and I don't know. Maybe they didn't know about mistrust, and maybe they were just totally ignorant to the fact that they could be lied to. But why would they disbelieve Yahweh? Because if the enemy was telling them to do something and again went against what Yahweh was telling them to do, then it's a lie. Okay, they should have seen that there was a difference here, you know. And you know, we don't have two ignorant individuals here. Adam was born with a full brain of he had knowledge, he had wisdom, he had the whole 9 yards. He wasn't born or created, I should say, with any ignorance or anything like. Oh, maybe he was the ignorance, but he I don't know. I guess when we get to heaven, we can walk up to Adam and ask him why he did what he did, and Eve also. So, all right. So Yahweh preserves a line. Seth replaces Abel. So Genesis 4:25. Let's see. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bare him a son, and they called his name Seth, for Yahweh said, She hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, who Cain slew. Okay. So the key phrase here is another seed. All right, because that's what it says, right? He says, has appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. Why they didn't use the word son or child or whatever, I don't know. Probably because it's important, because it's talking about a seed disagreement or war. Let's put it that way. So another seed. The narrative is emphasizing continuity. Okay. So let's see. Let's go down. We'll go further down in history or in the Bible. As the days of Noah, Genesis 6, and the corruption of all flesh. Okay. Now the strange intrusion, also known as the sons of God, with the daughters of men. All right. So let's see here. Genesis 6, 1-4. And if you're not into Scripture, just listen, because this is history. Okay. Treat it as a history lesson. All right. And it came to pass when men began to multiply in the face of the earth, the daughters were born unto them, the sons of God, or the fallen angels are not fallen yet, but they will fall. They probably fallen already because they're entertaining these thoughts, right? The sons of God, or the Benai Elohim, saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all that they chose. They took. Didn't say they asked. Didn't say they proposed or anything else. They just took. That sounds like abduction to me. But let's see. And the Lord said, "My spirit shall not always be with or strive with men, for they are also flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years." I don't know how many times I've heard people say, that means people can't live to be more than 120 years old. Boy, I've heard more ignorance in believers than I've heard anywhere else. Okay. It means that from that point, it's going to be 120 years till the flood. Okay, all right. Let's see. Now there were giants in the earth in those days, and after that, when the sons of God, and it says, and after that, remember that. Not that it's going to play key to this conversation, but it shows that there was another uprising of giants after the flood, and that probably had to do with the second incursion. That's my feeling anyway. No, there were no Nephilim hanging onto the boat for 150 days. Don't you think that if they were that strong and they're hanging on the boat, they could probably try to breach the boat or something like that? No, they all died. Well, actually, they died way before the flood, but that's another story. Let's see. These are the giants in earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, and the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. Okay, that's a whole other Bible study too. Okay, I might get into a little more here. Okay, so there's three interpretive lanes that we have to look at here, and you can choose to go down either 1, 2, or 3. Okay, you want door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3? Of those of you who are my age, remember, let's make a deal. So lane A, or door A, is the Italian. Sorry. The angelic / watcher view. In other words, non-human beings or fallen angels. Lane B is the Sethite view, godly men mixing with ungodly line. And line C, royal tyrant view, kings, elites taking women. Okay, that one is so ludicrous. It's not even really explored anymore. But the Sethite view is the one that's taught in all the seminaries. So because it's taught in seminaries, and you go to Bible school to become a pastor, aka and / find a mate. Well, that's what most of them are there for. Anyway, let's see. It probably gets anywhere if I can remember right down here. Okay. So whichever view you look at, or whichever view you take, text is screaming something went wrong. On a massive level, worldwide, astronomical, cosmic level. Okay. The key verdict, corruption became total. All right. So Genesis 6:12 says, "And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth." And if we ever get into it again, there are other shows way before this, that talked about the mixing of animals and humans, and the mixing of different animals together, and how there was actually an ongoing and live DNA or genetics experiment going on before the flood, implemented by the fallen angels and the giants, but picked up by mankind, and you know how mankind takes off with sin. All right. So the focus point here is all flesh, pervasive corruption. The narrative highlights scales. The narrative highlights scale. Okay. Okay, so Noah preserved through judgment. Okay. Let's see. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. That's Genesis 6, 8, and 9. Okay, now let's talk about Noah a little bit because he's found perfect in his generations. Okay, that means he was not corrupt. There was no Nephilim genes in his body. Okay, in his makeup or in his gene pool or whatever you want to say. He was a direct descendant of Adam, and Adam was the first man. Okay, and likewise, Noah's father, was it Methuselah or Lamech? Yeah, Lamech. Lamech's father, Methuselah, and all the way down to Adam were all uh, purely human. Okay, let's see here. Perfect generation is often read as moral integrity. Some also argue it hints at uncorrupt lineage. You can present it as, and I will. For certain, Noah is depicted as distinct and preserved, and also debated. Perfect in his generations implies beyond righteousness. Okay, yes, he was righteous because Yahweh picked him for this mission, this very important and holy mission, and but there's a story that talks about when Noah was born to Lamech and his wife, that the child looked different. He was strange looking, I guess. And it said that the accounts that I read say that when he opened up his eyes, the whole room lit up. And from being an infant, he was able to talk. Okay, and the talk wasn't just gibberish. It was proclaiming the glories of Yahweh and everything else. This is a very special child. Plus, he looked different. And this really concerned Lamech because he didn't look like a normal child, like a human child. Oh, he almost looked like he was a mix of fallen angel and human. And the story goes that he approached his wife, right, and accuses her of having relations with one of the watchers, and she goes into this whole speech, and I won't go into it here, but remember the night we were together, and the pleasure we were having, and all and everything else. No, this is your child, and I've not had relations with a fallen angel, and but he's still worried about it, so he goes and talks to his father Methuselah, and he becomes concerned, and they both talk to Enoch, because Enoch had a direct line to Yahweh. I mean, direct. It was the first telephone service ever in the history of the world, or ever. But so anyway, Enoch listened to everything that was said, and he said no. He says, you know what? He because he was getting Yahweh was listening the whole time and telling basically Lamech what to say. He says, no, don't worry about the child. He's perfectly normal, but he is destined for greatness, and it's through him that the lineage of mankind is going to be saved, and that mankind will totally be destroyed. So anyway, yeah, it says a little story about Noah. You might not have heard. It's kind of one of those stories that's told in the rabbinic institutes and stuff like that, but it sure explains a lot. So, all right. So Yeshua ties his return to the days of Noah. Okay, so Matthew 24, 37 through 39. But as the days of Noah were, so also shall be becoming. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day Noah entered the ark. And knew not until the flood came and took them all away, so shall with the coming of the Son of Man be. It's interesting because if you go into the same account in Luke, there's a little extra thing that's added that kind of explains a little something about what's said here. Marriage and given in marriage. Well, it says in Luke that men were married and given in marriage. Well, men aren't given in marriage in Scripture. Any of the Bible, men aren't given in marriage. It's always the woman that's given in marriage. And the only way a man can be given in marriage is if there's a homosexual relationship. So, those of you who think that gay marriage is a new thing, no. It happened before the flood. Another indication that Yeshua's return is really close. Okay. So let's see. So there's two layers that we can look at here. The surface layer, normal life and sudden judgment. Okay, it's just a normal but very corrupt society, kind of like we live in today, right? Deeper layer, if we want to look at deeper layer, if Genesis 6 included extraordinary corruption, Messiah may be hinting that end times deception could also become extraordinary. Remember what Yeshua said? Was it he said that it's going to be so bad, corruption is going to be so bad, I can't remember the exact phrase he used, but that it could fool even the elect. Okay. Okay, let's look at the Son of Man. Why does that title matter? Okay. Okay, so Daniel's Son of Man receives world authority. Was it Daniel 7:13-14? And I'm reading all this out of King James Version, folks, okay? In case you're wondering. There are those out there that wonder, and I'd be one of them if I was you. Let's see. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought glory, and they brought him near before him. Let me explain something, folks. My eye is all messed up. I've got floaters in there, and sometimes they get right in my middle of my vision, and I have to just take a second for them to leave. All right. And then there was given him a dominion and glory and a kingdom that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, and which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. Okay? And we're talking new heaven and new earth kind of stuff here, and Yeshua reigning on the throne. Okay. And even with the new heaven, new earth, it says that God himself is going to come reign on the throne. It could either mean Yeshua, or it could mean that the Father is actually going to come and dwell with men. Well, it says that God will come and dwell with men. So I'm thinking it's the Father is going to be with us. So okay, so let's throw out a a theological answer or anchor. Now, the Son of Man is not a throwaway phrase. It's a kingship claim. Okay, it frames Messiah as the rightful ruler over the earth. True humanity enthroned. Okay. Remember, Yeshua is all man and all God. Okay. Got to keep that in our heads. Paul contrasts Adam, the Messiah, as the last Adam. Adam and Messiah as the last Adam. Okay. So let's look at 1 Corinthians 15:45. And so it was written, the first man, Adam, was made a living soul. The last Adam was made a quickening spirit. Quickening means one that gives life, a life-giving spirit. Let's see. If Adam represents humanity fallen, Messiah represents humanity restored. That makes sense, right? His first coming, he restored us to where he put to an end sin and death, and anyone who follows him or loves him and believes in him and becomes one with him, basically, is also forgiven. And so it was the first one. He saved us from sin and death, and gave us the rights to become the sons of God. Okay, so that makes the Antichrist the counterfeit human destiny narrative, a false savior path, and when it leads to corruption and death. Okay, Yeshua gave us life. Antichrist will give us death. And if you believe in him and take his mark, you die twice, because you die in the flesh like everybody does, and you die in the spirit, because after the judgment, you get thrown in a lake of fire with all the other gobbledygooks that were out there. Okay. Daniel 2:43, they shall mingle themselves with the seeds of men. All right. Okay, read the verse in full. That's right. I have to remind myself. I put these reminders in here. Daniel 2:43, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seeds of men, but they will not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Kind of like putting vinegar and oil together, huh? That's the way I look at it. Although it's a more drastic illustration. So what is absolutely solid from this context is that, let's see, Daniel 2:44, and in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. Okay, that's this comes at the end of the beast. There's an image of Nebuchadnezzar, of a statue actually, which represents all the future kingdoms that are going to afflict Israel. And later on, this rock comes down. It says, not formed by human hands, and it strikes at the feet. It's interesting, it strikes at the feet, because that's where the miry clay is, and that's the weakest part of the statue. And the thing comes crumbling down, and I think it says it turns into dust and blows away. And then Yeshua's kingdom reigns forever. Okay, non-negotiable point. The statue vision is about kingdoms, kingdoms/empire systems, culminating in a final unstable phase. I think that's what he just said. So why does 2:43 in Daniel trigger debate? The two parties phrasing is you got to admit that that's weird. It actually shows that, well, if you read it just outright, it shows that there's humankind, or the seed of men, and then there's something else. Okay. So let's see. They shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. That's a first bullet point. Second one is the wording easily reads as if they are not equal to the seed of men, or aren't the seed of men. Yeah, that's what I believe. Yeah. Okay. Interpretation lanes I can present. Lane A, mainstream, political alliances, intermarriage, mixed populations, unstable conditions. Okay. These are all worldly and physical answers to what that could mean. Okay, let's see. Lane B, it says, I put speculative because, I'm speaking to you folks, and I don't know who all of you are, and maybe some of you aren't believers. So I say speculative, but I believe this. Something non-human to blend into humanity, echoes of Genesis 6. Remember, we go back with the sons of God being with the daughters of men. Okay. So even right up until almost the very end of history, the evil one, Satan and his minions, this last one being the Antichrist himself, or the beast, are going to try to extinguish the Jews. Okay. Okay, so the key caution line that we need to remember is Daniel 2 does not explicitly say angels, watchers, or Nephilim, or hybrids. But the phrasing is odd enough that it keeps the question alive for researchers. Yes, it does. And it doesn't mean humans, so it's got to mean something else. It's not rocks. It's not lizards. Well, I don't know. There are fallen angels that take the form of lizards. It's not beavers or buffalo or anything else. It's something that it's a repetitive theme from Genesis 6, like it said above. So, okay, let's see. Discussion prompt. In the end time system, if the end time system of iron plus clay, what's the modern equivalent of something strong trying to fuse with something fragile and failing? Okay, real quick, I got to get into this. I don't want to make this show any longer than I have to. But I believe that there's an active breeding program going on between what we call aliens, which are really fallen angels, and people. And if you read "Walking Among Us" by David Jacobs, Dr. David Jacobs. He has interviewed tons and tons of people that are alien abducted. Excuse me, they've been alien abducted, and they swear that there's an active breeding program going on, and it's developed to such an extent that these creatures look exactly like human beings. Okay, there are some minor differences, okay, but from what I read the book several times, and what I got from it is that these things, although they look human, they can't act fully human yet anyway. Probably by the time this book was written, probably about 10 years ago, maybe. So maybe in another 10 or 20 years, they'll have it perfected where these things are, we won't be able to tell the difference, okay? But they're evil, they're malevolent, and I believe that they're put on this earth to replace people, but also to be, what should we say, soul vessels for the Nephilim, which are the evil spirits, because it says in Noah that, excuse me, it says in Enoch, first Enoch, that when the Nephilim all slew each other, they became the evil spirits that plague mankind. And evil spirits cannot just manifest; they have to have a body to possess. So if they can't get any willing victims, or as many as they need, it's real easy. You make yourself your own race, shall we say, of beings that look human and are partly human, because they have a lot of human DNA in them. Some fallen angelic DNA, I would say alien, but we know that they're fallen angels. And this being the case, they could. If a human gets possessed by a demon, he can always get delivered. But if these things are soulless to begin with, so to speak, and they don't have any consciousness of being something other before they were created what they are, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Then they would be open to the possession. Plus, they would not want to be unpossessed, so to speak. They would not want to be delivered, because this would be the first thing they ever were. And the reason why people want to be delivered from demons is because things take over, and they aren't the first thing that they ever were. Okay. I hope I'm understandable. Okay, let's see. So if the end time system is iron plus clay, what's the modern equivalent of something strong trying to fuse with something fragile and failing? Okay, that's just something to think about. Real quick, we're going to move on to another subject here, also very related, but I got a video I want to watch. It's a real quick video. It's Chuck Missler talking about the mixing of the seed that's talked about in Daniel, the seed of men. So let's go ahead and watch that real quick, and then afterwards we'll get back to the case at hand.
And whereas thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Now, I have taught this passage for the better part of 3 or 4 decades. And I read this verse hundreds of times. But it was relatively recently, only a few years ago, that I was quite startled that I had never paid attention to what it said, even though I read it over and over and over again. See, there's all kinds of speculations among scholars. What does the miry clay represent? And I, like most of the conservative expositors, would point out that clay seems to suggest people. You're the potter, I'm the clay, and so forth. We can find examples where clay is used of people. And that may be exactly what it means, except there's some interesting things here. It turns out that it's all in Aramaic, not Hebrew, which makes it a little more complicated, but miry clay is clay made from dust. And dust, of course, is idiomatic of death in many ways. So it's iron mixed with miry clay. But here's the phrase that I had some experts really check out for me, to make sure I wasn't out I'm known as the apostle of the arcane, or, part of the fringe types. They shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. See, when you talk about the miry clay, he uses a personal pronoun, they. It's a personal pronoun, they. So it represents people of some kind. But here's the strange part. They shall mingle themselves with what? The seed of men. That means that the they have to be something other than the seed of men. Wow. That's pretty weird. And shall not cleave to one another, even as iron does not mix with clay. So what I'm going to do, since I checked the time and I have a little time to shoehorn into this lesson, a review of some things that you regulars, bear with me, those of you the regulars that just finished Genesis with us are all familiar with where I'm headed here. I'm going to give you just a brief snapshot review of a very controversial view of the Scripture, but one that has to its advantage. It's the traditional view of the ancient rabbis. It's the traditional view of the early church. There are some modern theories popularly taught in most seminaries that are clearly unscriptural and wrong. So bear with me if this is going to be disturbing to you. And I won't take the time to defend it thoroughly in this brief snapshot. If you find it that's not familiar to you, you want to dig into it, I encourage you to get our materials. We've got several materials that will deal with this, and you can judge for yourself from the Scripture whether this is left field or not. But they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. Miry clay is made of mire or dust. The context of the dream seems to imply that whatever they are, they constitute a significant political constituency. We're not talking about a little 1% fringe thing here. We're talking about somebody that's apparently meaningful enough to keep this empire from gaining the strength that it's seeking. Okay? One possibility that I don't really get into too much is cloning. Well, maybe we touch on it. We're in a day today where we tamper with the human genome. But I want to go back, not head down the biotech channel, just go back and look at Genesis 6, very important chapter. When 4 disciples came to Jesus for a confidential briefing on his second coming, he gave them a 2-chapter answer in Matthew 24 and 25 and so on. He made a remark that's disturbing. He says, as the days of Noah were, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Now, to understand what he said, you have to understand what were the days of Noah like. Well, they were sinful. Well, yeah, but so are a lot of, that's not distinctive in a sense. What does this really mean? Let's go back and look at the days of Noah. I want you to mark in your Bibles Genesis chapter 6, verse 1 and 2, and I want you to notice that those two verses are a single sentence. It's astonishing to me how many scholars fail to note that it's a single sentence. It came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and took them wives of all which they chose. We're going to explore this phrase, sons of God, what it's translated from. But I want you to notice that we're talking men in general, daughters in general, and these characters, whatever they are, took daughters of men that they were fair, and took them wives of all which they chose. We're not talking Sethites or Canaanites here, we're talking just daughters in general. Okay? Who are the sons of God? Key phrase. Let's explore it. Benai ha-Elohim in the Hebrew. It is a term in the Old Testament that is invariably used of angels. The term refers to a direct creation of God. The word sons of God means it's a direct creation of God. You and I, when we're born, are not direct creations of God. We're sons of Adam, not sons of God. In John chapter 1, when Jesus came, he said, he came unto his own, but his own received him not. But as many as received him, to them gave he the power to be what? The sons of God, or the children of God, or the sons of God, right. You and I, if we're sons of God, are because we've been regenerated, we've been born again. That's what the term born again means. That's what it refers to. Angels are direct creation of God, so they're called Benai ha-Elohim throughout the Old Testament. Let's look at that. It's always use the term of angels. That's in Job 1:6, 2:1, 3:8:7. In the New Testament, Luke 20 uses the equivalent phrase. In the book of Enoch, which is not part of the Bible, don't misunderstand me, but it's a widely venerated book from the 2nd century BC to about the 2nd century AD. And it's very useful for several things. It tells you what the rabbis believed. It tells you the grammar and the syntax. We learn about the language. And the book of Enoch uses the same language, and it's clearly referring to angels. The Septuagint, the Hebrew that was translated into highly precise scientific Greek. And it clearly makes them angels. The greatest Hebrew scholars in the 3rd century BC translated it to understanding these were angels. Now, why is this such a problem? Well, it came to pass when men began to multiply the face of the earth, the daughters were born unto them, the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair. They saw the daughters of men, Benoth Adam. These are not daughters of Cain or Seth, they're in general, you follow me? They're daughters of Adam. Benoth Adam is what Hebrew actually says. I mention this because modern exposition has twisted this to mean something a little less uncomfortable, but it's just not scriptural. But here's the key verse, in verse 4 of chapter 6. There were Nephilim, that's the Hebrew word, Nephilim or Nephilim, in the earth in those days, and also after that. Notice that phrase, also after that. This was not confined to just before the flood. That was the primary cause of the flood, to deal with this issue, but apparently there are incidents subsequent. Many people overlook that. The Nephilim. We'll talk about this word Nephal. Nephilim is the fallen ones. It comes from the verb nephal in the Hebrew, to fall, to be cast down, to fall away, or desert. These are fallen angels, or they're products of the fallen angels, the fallen ones. Ha-Gibarim, the mighty ones, is also a term that comes up. In the Greek, they were translated as gigantes, which means the earthborn. But that word gets transliterated into English as giants. They did happen to be giants, but that's not what that word means. It means the earthborn. From gigas, meaning earthborn. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for he also is flesh, yet his day shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days. That's where the gigantes comes in. And also after that, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of men, that they bare children to them, the same became the mighty men which were of old, men of renown. Now something else, you get down to verse 9, it speaks of Noah. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man, perfect in his generations. Noah walked with God. This word perfect in the Hebrew is tamim. It means without blemish, sound, healthful, without spot, unimpaired. It's usually used of physical defects. But Noah's genealogy was unimpaired. What this verse implies is that one of the distinctions of Noah was that his genealogy was not clouded by these shenanigans of the fallen angels. Satan apparently was trying to corrupt the human genome by introducing this corruption to prevent a Messiah. By the way, this view I'm expressing is confirmed at least twice, actually 3 times, in the New Testament. Jude chapter 6, verse 6 and 7, Jude says, the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of that great day, even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth and as an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. Here Jude himself, brother of the Lord, creates a parallel between what these angels did and what the Sodomites were doing. In other words, going after strange flesh. Left their own habitation, their own habitat, and going after strange flesh. This word habitation only appears twice. It's called okaterion, only twice in the New Testament. It occurs there in Jude 6, but it also occurs in 2 Corinthians 5:12. For this, where Paul says, in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed with the house which is from heaven. And the word here is the same word. The thing that those angels, the fallen angels, disrobed themselves from in order to indulge themselves on the earth is the habit that we are aspiring to in our resurrection bodies, apparently. That term in the Greek may be a very more technical term than most theologians recognize. But also Peter talks about all this. He says, for God spared not, if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to Tartarus, he delivered them into the chains of darkness to be reserved on judgment, and spared not the old world, but saved Noah, and he goes on. He even ties it to the Noah experience. The word Tartarus only appears here in the New Testament, but it's a widely used term in the Greek. What does Tartarus mean? It's the Greek term for dark abode of woe, a pit of darkness in the unseen world. In Homer's Iliad, it is said it is as far below Hades as the earth is below heaven. Where is it? I don't know, but I don't want to go there. Okay?
Yeah, right.
Now, what's commonly taught in many seminaries is what's called the lines of Seth view. This is a view that emerged in the 5th century. It has no scriptural support. It argues that what we're dealing with here are the lines of Seth were the good guys, and they shouldn't have intermarried with the lines of Cain, and that's what they're dealing with. It's hard for me to express it because it's totally unscriptural. But anyway, The fallen angel view, the one I've expressed to you, is the view of the ancient Hebrew scholars all through the ancient Hebrew rabbinic literature. It was the view of the early church. It prevails still among the conservative scholars today, and it is confirmed in the New Testament. And it's interesting that we find legends of the same thing in every ancient culture on the planet Earth. Sumer, Assyria, Egypt, Incas, Mayan, Gilgamesh, Persia, Greece. The Greek mythology that we all have some exposure to is all about demigods, gods and demigods and so forth. The demigods, called Titans, would be called in the Hebrew the Nephilim. In South Sea Islands, the Sioux Indians, even in America, they all have legends of star people that came down and commingled with people that were giants, and even Buffalo Bill in his autobiography makes reference to some of these strange episodes. Atlas and Hercules, common in folklore, were Nephilim, byproducts, hybrids between the gods and man, if you will. And the angel view is the traditional rabbinical thing. Book of Enoch, I mentioned these. Testament of the 12 Patriarchs, Josephus, Septuagint. This is not new stuff. The early church fathers, Philo, Justin Martyr, Irenaeus, Athenagoras, Tertullian, and so forth. They all held these views. Even modern scholarship, go right through the list: Pember, DeHaan, McIntosh, Dillich, Gaebelein, Arthur W. Pink, Donald Gray Barnhouse, Henry Morris, Arnold Fruchtenbaum, and of course, Hal Lindsey, Chuck Smith, and others. The Seth view that's commonly taught doesn't deal with the text accurately. It infers separation, which doesn't come until chapter 11 following. It infers the godliness of the Sethites, which is not true because the first Sethite was the one that led the rebellion against God. It infers that the Canaanites are a subset of the Adamites. That's not what the text talks about. It also doesn't deal with the fact that what the text says is the unnatural offspring of these unions were unnatural. Trying to say that when a believer marries an unbeliever, you may have monsters, but they're not monstrous. They're not genetically, different. Of course, the New Testament confirms it. But the reason I emphasize this is you will not understand most of the Old Testament, the post-flood history, until you understand what the Rephaim were. And these are Nephilim. When Moses sent the 12 spies in the land, the 10 came back with a report. They're terrified because there were, verse 33 of Numbers 13, there were Nephilim in the land in those days. Satan always has tried to thwart the plan of God. He tried to corrupt Adam's line in Genesis 6. And as God increasingly reveals his plan of redemption, it allows Satan to focus attacks to Abraham. Destruction of the male line in Exodus 1. Pharaoh, remember, even after he let him go, Pharaoh went to try to wipe him out. When God told Abraham, 400 years later, your descendants are going to come back to this land. That gave Satan 4 centuries to lay down a minefield called the Canaanite tribes. And that's why God told Joshua to wipe out every man, woman, and child of certain tribes. Why? Because he had a genome problem. And again, when God says it's going to be through David's line, David's family is singled out by Satan and so forth. So we have, after the flood, the Nephilim also after that, verse 4 said. And the Rephaim, the Emim, the Horim, and the Zamzumim were Nephilim. And the term is often, it comes from a root meaning dead. It's often translated dead. That's why you have to get behind the English translation to see the precision here. Arba, Anak, the Anakim, these are all descendants of these things. Remember Og, the king of Bashan, king of the giants, up in Deuteronomy 3 and elsewhere. And of course Goliath and his 4 brothers were descendants of Anak and so forth. And we find up in the Golan Heights, the Gilgal Rephaim, and this has never been researched adequately. In Genesis chapter 3, when God announces the seed of the woman, he also announces the seed of the serpent. He says, I'll put enmity, speaking to Satan, God says, I'll put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. He shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. From this verse, we get one of the titles of the Messiah, the seed of the woman. But we overlook the fact there's another seed mentioned here, seed of the serpent. And he's coming. Some people believe he's alive today. The whole biblical thing is a conflict between 2 seeds, the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent, sometimes called the red dragon in Revelation 12, the coming world leader, commonly called the Antichrist, and of course the false prophet who caused the world to worship the coming world. It's a satanic trinity in a sense. These forces are behind the world powers today. And if you know your Bible, you can watch them play out visibly. Let's get back to Daniel.
Okay, that was an abrupt ending. But I think Missler did quite a good thing and cleared up a lot of points. Okay, and that's very important. That's why I had the video on there. But yeah, total agreement, total agreement, and I agree with him too because I had a lot of problems with the God of Israel, a God of love, of grace and peace and life and mercy, and telling the armies of the Israelites to go in and massacre the whole city and even the animals and take nothing out of it. And why would a loving God do something like that? Well, yeah, if they're, but if they had Nephilim in there, then there was every reason to go in there because it was a seed problem again. The seed of the woman was or seed of the serpent was trying to destroy, or it would eventually try to destroy. In this case, the seed of the woman, or the things leading up to the seed of the woman. So it was, in my eyes, it was justified. So okay, so let's see where we are here. I want to see what kind of progress we're making here. About halfway there. I may have to. You'll never know this happened, but I may have to pause this and go do what I got to do, and then come back and finish it. So anyway, we'll see when that time comes. I've tried to find out when we're leaving, but whatever. Okay. So it says in Daniel 11:37 regarding this person that's coming at the end. Nor the desire of woman. Okay, let's see here. Let me go back here. Okay, let's see. Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't move my spot when. Okay, so let's read it in full. I know that's just a title there. Neither shall. It's talking about the Antichrist. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. Boy, talk about person with a major what's it? No, he's got a major psychological problem. Let's put it that way. Psychopath. That's what word I was looking for. The textbook definition of a psychopath. Okay, let's see. So, what does the verse say? Regardless of the interpretations, okay. So he's rejecting the God of his fathers. He rejects the desire of women. He rejects any God, and he exalts himself above all. Okay. So talk about lanes. We got three more we can look down. Okay, and so lane A would be the sexual / relational abnormality, or in other words, celibacy or disinterest, possibly not provable. Well, look at the Obamas. Supposed to be husband and wife, and but more like husband and husband, and they had to rent their children from another couple in order to have credibility that they could possibly be a male-female couple. Okay. So also in the lane B, rejection of family / marriage norms. That's quite possible. And lane C, in the Messianic reading here, women's desire as hopes to bearing Messiah, often argued. Okay. Let's see. I think it goes into this here. If I'll explain it. Let me see. I was going to run down here. It is the okay. It doesn't, so I'll have to explain it here. It used to be during the times of Yeshua, at least, and even before that, that it was the aspiration, the desire of an Israeli or an Israelite woman to be the one to give birth to the Messiah. Okay, it was common, although they it never was really. It was always in context with being a husband and wife situation, not like Mary or Miriam, who had conceived via the Holy Spirit. But And that's what that means. So it's woman's desire to hope to bear the Messiah. Okay, so that's one of the three interpretations. Okay, so let's see. We got another thing here: self-exaltation. All right. You ever been around a psychopath or a sociopath? They think they're the best thing in the world, and very interesting individuals they are, but very hard to deal with at the same time. So let's look at 2 Thessalonians 2, 3 through 4. Let no one deceive you by any means, for the day shall not come, except there be a falling away first, and the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple, and shewing himself that he is God. Okay? That exactly describes what Daniel said. Let's see. Now Daniel's magnify himself above all matches Paul's exalteth himself above all. Okay. This is going to get into some really weird stuff, okay? This is the show for weird stuff, okay? Okay, that's enough. Let's go. I don't want to be self-exalted. Get into self-exaltation here. Revelation 17. The beast was and is not and shall ascend out of the abyss. Ooh, isn't that weird? He was, then he wasn't, but then he's going to come out and be again. All right. Let's see. Let's read the core verse. Revelation 17:8. The beast that thou sawest was and is not and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they shall dwell on the earth, and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. There's a guy named Jim Wilhelmsen that believes that that's Adolf Hitler, and he could be right. Who knows? But and he's got other proofs that you can read. Go to his website, echoesofenoch.net or com. I can't remember, and he explains it all there. So let's see. So time phrase structure. Let's see. Was means past reality. Is not means presently absent, and shall ascend, future emergence, and go into perdition, final destination. Okay. I don't know if you believe this or not, but if when you think about the serpent seed, there are people that are born to perdition. Right? I know that there is a big argument, and I've gotten into it with several people. Some agree with me, but some can't comprehend that people would just be born bad. Judas was born to perdition. Okay, the Antichrist is going to be born to perdition. And perdition means basically cannot be saved. Okay, born to be bad. So I'll leave you with that. And if you don't agree with me, we can agree to disagree. Okay, it's okay. It's not anything that is that salvation depends on or anything like that. But okay, let's see. So the bottomless pit or the abyss shows up as a prison realm. Okay. So let's see. Revelation 20 verses 1 through 3. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having a key to the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold of the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and set a seal upon it. That, as far as I understand, is a future event, because that's going to be during the millennium. And so anyway, Luke 8:31, and they besought him that he would not command them to go into the deep. This is talking about Yeshua when he cast the evil spirits into the swine, pine, and Let's see. Okay. So is there a point here that we can learn? Okay. The deep abyss language in the New Testament is consistently tied with the confinement and of unclean spirits. Remember the story? Yeshua said, "What's your name? Our name is Legion, for we are many." And it said, "Please do not cast us into the abyss, but instead cast us into those swine over there." And he did that, and the swine ran down and drowned themselves in the lake. Which is weird because once they didn't have a body to possess, they probably went to the abyss. So anyway, let's see. So perdition connects to the son of perdition. Okay, 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 3. That man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. Okay. Why prophecy researchers connect these? The Revelation beast goes into perdition. Paul's lawless one is the son of perdition. And even if they're not identical in every interpretive system, the conceptual overlap is heavy. Okay. So Revelation 17 repeats the riddle. Okay. Revelation 17:11, and the beast that was and is not, even is he of the eighth, and he is one of 7 that goeth into perdition. Wow. So, and even the beast that was and is not, even he is the eighth, and is of the 7 and goeth into perdition. So he's number 8, but he's one. There's 7. Okay, there's 8 total, but there's 1 through 7, and he's one of them. But he becomes the 8th. Okay, it's kind of like. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be funny here, but it's kind of like President Trump was President 45, and now he's 47. Well, he's the same guy, and he's holding the same office, but it's 2 different titles. Okay. So what it sounds like basically is a returning pattern, and 8th that is of the 7 continuity and novelty at the same time. Okay, so interpretive lanes. Okay. So let's look at lanes again. Okay, for some reason I got on this highway kick. Okay, so lane A, revived empire, is the most common. The beast equals an empire system that returns in a new form. Another one could be is lane B, a possessed ruler, a human leader whose rise is animated by a powerful spiritual force. All right, let's see. Lane C, the ancient return speculation. The language was, is not, and yet is, invites theories such as, an ancient tyrant motive, demonic personality reemerging, and counterfeit resurrection or deception, resurrection/deception event. Important now, this lane goes beyond explicit text. But it is legitimate. Why does it say? Why does it say it like that? It's a question. Okay. Let's see. The wonder factor. Okay. Revelation 17:8. They that dwell on the earth shall wonder when they behold the beast. There's some scripture in between that, but. So they're going to see this thing rising out of the abyss, this thing, this guy, whatever he is, and they're going to recognize him, and they're going to say, "Hey, this is amazing! Look at this! Remember when he lived before this, and this, and but now he's coming. Yeah, it's it is going to be something, and I believe that if we were here at the time, that would be something that." We would be fascinated by too, but we would know the truth because we know Scripture, right? So let's look at some discussion topics. Okay. What would make the whole world wonder? All right, the whole world now too. Now this isn't just the United States. It's not the West world. It's not the well, it's not just part of the world. It's the whole thing. What would make the whole world wonder? Okay, well, what about an apparent resurrection? Wouldn't that be interesting? Oh man. Well, what about an uncanny survival? How about a supernatural signs, or how about shocking political restoration? It says he, so I don't think it's going to be it could be an empire if it's a he, but at the same time, that's why my friend, or excuse me, like Jim Wilhelmsen, he believes it's Hitler, and he could quite possibly be right. You know, it's we'll know on the day it happens. And since this is the revealing of the Antichrist, we may be still here. Okay. All right. So the counterfeit pattern, the beast versus Messiah. The beast receives power from the dragon. Okay, Revelation 13:2. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Wow, Satan is actually given up his seat. And that's important because that's his throne. Okay, he's going to sit on Satan's throne. Isn't it interesting? Because Yeshua is sitting on the right hand of the Father. Okay. 8:2. Let's see. The world is stunned by the beast's recovery. And I saw one of his heads as if it was wounded in death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Notice wonder appears again. Okay. So Revelation 17:8 shall wonder, Revelation 13:3, and all the world wondered. And wonder means, it's like you drop your hands at your side and you're like, oh. I think of the movie, what was it? Independence Day, I think it was, when the UFO was, the guy was on the tower, they were waiting for the aliens to come, and when they finally showed up, he was just like, he couldn't say a word. He was befuddled. He was paralyzed basically by wonder. Okay, so the beast demands worship, Revelation 13:4. And they worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Okay, this is not merely politics, it's religious allegiance. Okay, this is what makes the mark so unique. It's not going to be just politics, it's going to be religious allegiance. It's going to be swearing, like swearing an oath that, Scripture says that, Yeshua says that if you proclaim me, I'll proclaim you. If you don't proclaim me, then I won't proclaim you. But it's talking about, what am I trying to say here? I've got it right on the tip of my tongue. It's an adoration. It's an adoration. It goes beyond allegiance. They're actually going to have love for the Antichrist. He's going to have their respect. He's going to have their attention, of course, and he's going to demand that they wear a mark because of that. If you love me, you'll take this. And if you have the mark, you can do this and this and this and this and this. It's like a parallel might be, where you don't have. I've seen people that come from other countries and they don't have TVs and stuff, or even the internet, and they come here and it's like they get that and they go hog wild with it, and they're so appreciative of it and everything, and rightfully so. But at the same time, it's like kind of an overindulgence or an over adoration. So I say, okay, okay. Your Son of Man versus something else. Let's see. The Son of Man represents rightful human dominion under God. Okay, we're talking about Yeshua now. So Daniel 7 presents the Son of Man receiving a kingdom that cannot be destroyed. This is with the statue thing. Okay. So Genesis 6, represents an intensification of corruption of flesh. Let's see, whether interpreted spiritually or physically, it is presented as a crisis severe enough to require global judgment. And that's going to be mimicked by the judgment at the end of the tribulation period. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Daniel 2:43 hints at a final attempt to mix that does not hold. They shall mingle, but they will not cleave. Revelation 17 presents a beast tied to the abyss, plus a return motive. Was, is not, and shall ascend. The end issue is worship and allegiance. Okay, there's a bug here. Revelation 13:8, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb that was slain from the foundation of the world. That's pretty simple. Let's see. Oh, I think we're going to finish here on time, actually. Okay. So what is the practical application? The Bible's emphasis on this is deception and worship, okay? 2 Thessalonians 2:9-10. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish. Okay. So this is like a call to watchfulness. Okay. We've heard all this stuff and what's going to happen, and we've learned what to watch out for. Now we got to learn to watch. Okay. Watch therefore, for ye know not the hour that your Lord doth come. Okay. We got to watch out for that too. That's why we always have to be in a righteous sort of manner. Okay, so if deception can be supernatural, what habits keep believers grounded? What habits keep believers grounded? Okay, here's some here. Scriptural literacy. You got to be in your word, reading scripture. Prayer and discernment. Pray constantly, we hear in scripture. Okay, and it works. It's a good thing. Let's see. Prayer and discernment. We always pray for more discernment. It's very important. When push comes to shove, when you really need it, it's going to kick in and it's going to help you immensely. And it'll help you just in regular everyday situations too. But I mean, where the rubber meets the road, it's going to be wonderful to have. Okay. Refusing fear, porn, and obsession. Okay. We can become so afraid by looking at everything that's happening in the world and things that will happen because of what's written in Revelation and Daniel and everything else. And we can look at those things and we can actually get so involved in them that we'll look for more. We'll see the things that are the Revelation talks about, the bowls and everything else, and what's going to happen to people. You know, a third of mankind here, a third of mankind there dying, and the fear can actually drive us into kind of an obsession. We want to be really careful that we don't do that, and we got to stay grounded in Yeshua. Every time the fear comes up, or every time that we get concerned about stuff, we should be running right to Yeshua, to His words, and to and the things that He said: peace, tranquility, love. All those things that He possesses and that He gives. We should be seeking when we start to obsess or to get afraid. Okay, that's the best way I can put it. So focus on Messiah's kingdom as the end of the story. That's it. You may lose battles. This is a war. You may lose battles, but you win the war. Or actually, He wins the war, and we're on His side. So we win the war, right? Okay. All right, let's see. Wow, I can't believe it. I actually got through it. Let's see. 1 hour and 24 minutes. That's good. Well, folks, I'm going to have to end it here. I got to get going. But, hey, don't worry. Remember the song, Don't Worry, Be Happy. Because Yeshua, you're on Yeshua's side if you belong to Him. And He's on your side. And it's a combination that does not fail. Keep your eyes upon Yeshua all the time. Okay. When you keep your eyes on him, for a second, just look up at maybe a corner in the wall. When you look up there, do you see things that are happening behind you, or even to your side? If you focus on what's up there, you don't see what's over here and over there, and that's what's important. What's up there, because that can take care of what's over here and over there and behind you and everything else. He's a God of miracles, and if he thinks you need one, you're going to get one. Okay, so it's so, I emphasize so much that we need to just keep watching him and watch his face, for his face, and to do his will, and to love one another. That's very important. Pastor told a story not too long ago in church. He said he talked about maybe a teenager coming to his house, and he's there and his wife's there, and the wife is serving the drinks and stuff like that to them, and so she says, "Well, I got to go now," and so she leaves, and the teenager walks up to the pastor and says, "Thank God she's gone. I can't stand her." He said, "You think I'm going to let that kid stay in my house? No, I'm not." He says, "We're a package deal, and if you love me, you got to love her." Okay, so point being that, because he was talking about the church and that sometimes people are hard to put up with, and so if we love Yeshua, and we are all Yeshua's people, okay, those of us who come to him in faith, then that guy over there, although he might be the biggest pain in the rear end sometimes, gotta love him. Gotta love him, because that guy over there might think you're a pain in the rear end, but he still loves you. Okay, and if we all act like that, if we all play that out, what a better thing the church would be, and what a better thing the world would be too. But the world's going to hell, so we really can't focus on that. We got to focus on the church. And the church, I don't mean a building, and I don't mean a denomination. I mean the living, acting organism that is all the believers in Yeshua. Okay? All right, I got to go, folks. Hey, may Yahweh bless you and keep you. May make his face to rise upon you, be gracious unto you. May what you're going out and you're coming in, you're rising up and you're lying down. And may he give you the peace that passes all understanding. And I pray you have a wonderful weekend. Go out and do something that'll bless you, that'll bless your family if you have one. And that'll just bring glory to his name. In Yeshua's name, amen. Okay, folks, gots to go. Bye now.